They gave Bluey a 4.
Oh no! Now Craig is gonna sue. He's gonna riot. How dare they touch Bluey?
Kind of pissed on that one. Arch, in the PC gamer world, PC Master Race world, does PC Gamer, the online outlet and magazine, have a whole lot of street cred with you?
I don't think they've had a whole lot of street cred for the last 20-odd years, probably.
Well, they're doing their best to stay relevant. They have 3.2 million followers over on X. But with headlines like this, I think they're strictly looking to farm engagement here. As this came out yesterday, says the eagerness to grave dance on unpopular games has become a bad habit. Now, Arch, you seeing that headline for the first time, and once again, I don't want to give them any traffic, right? What are your thoughts on that? The idea that, hey, something's bad, so let's laugh at it.
Yeah, no, I saw that article. I did a video on it just this morning, actually. And, well, I don't know if it's ignorance or a desperate cry for attention or what it is, but the kind of the gist of it is that they're looking at Concord and they're like, I just don't know why this game fails. Like, you're supposed to be the experts on PC gaming, aren't you? That's your entire raison d'etre, your entire reason for existence is that you can review PC games effectively and give an educated advice to your consumer base. Yet you look at a game like Concord and you're like, I just don't understand why it failed.
You know, I was watching he's a journalist, Paul Tassi, I'm not quite sure to say his last name, but he has a YouTube channel, and he had a video talking about Concord in particular, it failing and such, and he goes into it. Like, when you watch his 10-minute diatribe about it, it's very obvious, and I said this a few days ago, between Concord and Dustborn and the exact opposite with Black Myth Wukong, the success that those have seen. I can't think of a better metaphor of the separation between the journalist and the consumer, as well as the developers and the consumer. Like, it's very obvious that they do not have a pulse on their audience, because he just doesn't understand. Now, back to this headline here, and I think it's like really important to point this out, right? The eagerness to grave dance on unpopular games has become a bad habit. Okay, so let's talk about this. Why is it unpopular to begin with? Why would it be unpopular?
Well, in the case of Concord, character design is really all that you need to say. Because I've heard from the gaming reviewers loudly that apparently it's mechanically a very competent hero shooter. It's like, okay, sure. But the character design of it is beyond awful. Like, all of their characters look terrible. Not even the female ones for just being ugly, but they've got this one character who is dressed up in literally like lime vomit green with bright red details. Like, this is not good. This doesn't look appealing or interesting. Not to mention also, again, you have a title here where the developers were told this. This isn't like, happened yesterday. They were informed again and again, this doesn't look good. We don't want this. You're making woke and ugly characters. Please don't. And developers just laughed at them on social media and probably like, we don't think these silly people know what they're talking about. We're going to really hit this one out of the park. Like,
there's this thought of like, go woke, go broke, right? And I think there is an element to that. But how do people consume media, right? I go back to when I was a kid, when I was growing up, you would look at the back of, you would see a picture of a game in a magazine. You would look at the back of a box of a game. And that was how you decided if you wanted to play the game, right? That was your first impression. Now you see clips on Twitter, you see clips on YouTube, you see screenshots on social media. That is how you make a judgment about it, right? Look, from a social perspective, the get woke, go broke stuff, I totally understand it. But before it can go broke, people have to want to play the game. And when you see these screenshots, that's the one thing that I feel like none of these people are talking about, is that the first impression that is made by all of these games was poor. Whether it was Dustborn, whether it was Concord, whether it was Suicide Squad, it was a poor first impression. Whether it was gameplay, whether it was screenshots, across the board. And that is not accounted for enough when it comes to the failure of these games. It's very hard to correct a poor first impression. And that is something that when you look at Concord, you knew it was going to fail. Everybody knew it was going to fail, except for the people who are making the game. And I don't understand how they cannot look at it, because in theory, they've been gamers themselves, these developers. They grew up, they knew how they consume media, but you have to get people in the door first. And if the door is broken or it's an ugly ass door, nobody wants to go through it.
Yep, absolutely.
But there has been a push, and I just kind of circle back on this real fast. You got an unpopular game, right? Isn't this at its core the ultimate in gamer mentality, gamer habits? Like, if somebody sucks in a video game, don't you shit talk them, right? Take this to any aspect of life. This is a game that sucks, so people will point and laugh at it. If you're playing Halo or Call of Duty or Fortnite or any other game, Mario Party, and somebody sucks, you point and you laugh at them. That is human nature. That is how people act. I don't understand why this is such a foreign idea to these people. This is a bad habit that has to change. Like, get out of here. It's ridiculous.
In part, sure. So I theorized this in my video too, because this person must understand that this game looks awful. Like, they must, like, intellectually be like, no, this looks like shit, right? But they have for the longest time been the determinators of culture. Like, they've been able to go, like, okay, this game's going to make it, this game's not going to make it. We're the powers that do this. With Black Myth Wukong, with Star Wars Outlaws, and with this, we have now seen again and again, they are not the kingmakers anymore. PC Gamer does not determine if a game succeeds or fails anymore. In fact, them being on the side of that game is more likely to see it fail than it succeed. And it might be very well that that's why they're trying to fight for it so much. Like, no, you should actually like Concord, because, you know, we would really like it if we still had some societal power. It's like, nope, don't think so.
Well, let's talk about that, because I do think that there has been a push from gaming media to prop up Concord, right? And whether that is them in a relationship with Sony or them feeling it's best to prop this up. We've seen reviews of this game, and IGN released their review, and they gave it a 7 out of 10. And I want to watch probably the first like 45 seconds of their review here, maybe just the intro, because it tells you what they think about it. And then I want to talk about, you know, then I kind of want to get into the end and kind of how they got to their 7 out of 10. So let's watch this real quick. This is the IGN review of Concord.
No signals on unlock.
Grab a copy of Overwatch off some dusty GameStop shelf and rub it under the musky armpit of the Guardians of the Galaxy's Peter Quill, and you might have something close to the feeling of Concord.
Okay, so based off that initial sentence, that doesn't sound very appealing.
Musky armpit. Ew.
Right? This game, they gave it a 7 out of 10.
Well, that's one of the things too. Like, I remember back in the good old days, we had a PC Gamer magazine, which I think was like PC Gamer Insider or something like that, right? And it used to utilize the whole range. You know, there's something that we've completely lost track of in modern games reviews. If you had a game that was a 3, that meant it was pretty bad. It was subpar. It was very buggy. If it go to 5, it was just a run-of-the-mill game. You know, it wasn't bad. It wasn't good either. It was just average. Whereas now, the 7 has kind of become like the musky armpit, as the reviewer says there. It's like, that doesn't sound like a 7 to me.
Well, let's continue. Once again, keep in mind as y'all are listening to this, this is a 7 out of 10. And like, I know that like Mark the Cyborg is like, IGN scale is 6 through 10. No, it's not. I mean, I get what you're saying, but no, it's not. There's a 0 in their scale. It's a 0 through 10 scale, right?
As competitive hero shooters go, this sci-fi contender from Sony plays it quite safe. Complete with immediately charming characters.
I don't know.
That is the one semi-attractive character in the entire game. The the buzz cut, side cut Asian chick is like the only one that you can look at and go like, yeah, okay.
Complete with immediately charming characters.
At no point, like, has anybody ever said that statement about Dustborn? Immediately charming characters. I think it's actually the complete opposite. People have been repulsed by these characters along the way. Let's continue. Oh, go ahead, Arch. What were you gonna say?
Oh no, nothing. It's just they're establishing a narrative there, obviously.
Yes.
Rendered in gobsmackingly beautiful cutscenes, and ability-based PvP combat that never addresses why those characters are fighting one another when they're clearly allies in said cutscenes. But just because it doesn't offer much in the way of innovation, doesn't mean Concord isn't fun to play. I've sunk over 40 very enjoyable hours into the sweaty shooter, and it overwhelmingly nails its class-based gunplay. That rock-solid foundation certainly carries it quite a long way, but with only a few by-the-numbers game modes and no killer features to shake up the genre, it still has a lot of growing to do during its live service evolution.
Okay, so there's their intro right there. We saw that Concord was a 7 out of 10. Okay, 7 out of 10 for Concord. Other games that received a 7 out of 10. This is an 8 out of 10 from Visions of the Mana. Monster Jam Showdown Review got a 7, right? Star Wars Outlaws also got a 7. Tactical Breach Wizards Review. I haven't heard of that game before, but that got an 8. We see Fallout London got a 7. Black Myth Wukong, the fastest selling game in history, got an 8.
An 8.
Madden got a 6. Dustborn, also a 7. So that's kind of where we're at with this right now. And you can break this down. I thought also it would be interesting to see other games that rated lower, maybe, perhaps, than in the most recent games here. We saw that.
I actually have a question about all these ratings. So
Yes.
if you're just scrolling through, you can see they're all reviewed by different people.
Yes.
But it's like, do these people follow the same threshold? Because then, like, what's the point of the score? Because let's say someone reviews X and then someone else also reviews X, but like they're completely different basis. And so their numbers are useless. And so like this entire IGN thing is just pointless then, right?
Okay,
Because
so
they're not all following the same criteria.
okay, so when you have a brand like this, and IGN's been around forever, you have your brand guidelines, right? And you also have your review guidelines that say, this is how we're going to review these games, right? But yes, ultimately, you're right. It does come down to personal opinion. Now, it is IGN's review, but ultimately, it's Joe Bob's review that is representing IGN. And ultimately, it's the job of the editor-in-chief to put
Make
the
sure
person
everyone's equal and everything.
well, and to put their reviewers in the best situation to review the games that they should be reviewing, right? That's the EIC's job, just to know their personnel, know the games that are coming out, and ultimately upheld the brand guidelines associated with that. But yes, you are correct when it comes to the scoring. Other games, Suicide Squad with a 5, also. So just for reference along the way. Other games in the 4, Endless Ocean, Fortnite's Festival. They gave Bluey a 4.
Oh no! Now Craig is gonna sue. He's gonna riot.
I gotta be honest, kind of pissed on that one. So, and just for reference, let's go down to the zeros. Action Girls Racing Review. They very rarely do they hand out zeros, because they've only given out 3. I kind of want to check out these games because why not? But I think that's a pretty good reference there. So 7 out of 10 for Dustborn. And I understand the idea that these games, they should be scaled, should be reviewed on a 0 to 10 scale. But realistically, they don't put anything a whole lot below a 6, unless it's like really, really bad. Arch, you plan on checking out Concord at all?
No, not at all. Like that is a failure on such a scale that I'm happy to just step back and let nature take its course, really.
What does that look like? What does nature taking its course look like?
Well, it's kind of like when there's that one little child in the herd of wildebeest, and it's clearly malformed, like its leg is dragging, etc. And you can just see the lions, like 15 of them, staring at this one. Even the other wildebeest are pushing the child towards the lions, like, no, go away. You're absorbing our resources. Get eaten.